Question 2, discussion. So again, we're at the tutor's brief, page 11. The question was, Customs stopped someone entering the country with 500 euros and 5,000 US dollars into his suitcase. So the discussion points, has an offence been committed? So again, when we look at section 1, subsection 1, a person commits an offence of money laundering under AMLA if the person knows or ought to have known that property is or forms part of the proceeds of unlawful activity. And remember, unlawful activity means conduct which constitutes a serious offence, i.e. anything over a punishment of 12 months in prison, financing of a terrorist act, or contravention of a law which commenced after 2008. Now, in this situation, has there been any unlawful activity? Remember, evidentially, we can look at using Anwar, the irresistible inference. We can't say definitively where the money comes from, but are there circumstances that lead you to the conclusion that the money comes from unlawful activity? In this situation, we don't know whether the amounts are within the limits that can come into the country. If they're within the limits, then there's no breach of any customs declaration, and therefore the money is lawfully being brought into the country. If the money was in excess of a customs declaration, then consider the case of F. And remember, in F, there was a lie straight away. We only believe there's a certain amount in the suitcase, and when the suitcases were opened, sure enough, there was way in excess. Here, we're not talking about way in excess, but was there anything on the declaration that would have suggested there was less than the amount that should have come in? Definitely an interview to go through your points to prove as an investigator in relation to money laundering, and then equally to liaise closely with the prosecutor in relation to determining whether there is any offence committed and next steps to take. It may be that there are further investigations in relation to the history of the individual, their flight pattern coming in and out. Is this a regular trip, suggesting that they may be bringing money in and out in small amounts? So again, working closely together. Also consider cash seizure. Now remember, you will have about cash seizure in your guide, and if you turn to page 25 and 26, you will have reference to actions that should take place. So on page 25 of your guide, there is the procedure in terms of handling the seizure of cash, thinking about forensics because there may be further investigations, and equally in terms of the provisions for cash seizure, getting in touch with EOCO in terms of seizing currency suspected to be the proceeds of crime, and that is pursuant to section 23(1)(b) of the Economic and Organised Crime Act, or is intended for the use in the commission of a serious offence. Remember, the definition of a serious offence is different to AMLA, but so you'll have to check with EOCO as to whether the use of cash seizure can be used in this particular situation, and also to take the appropriate steps when seizing the cash to ensure integrity and also continuity of the evidence.